Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Losses Above Replacement, the greatest baseball podcast to grace your ears. I'm today's host, Mathias Altman-Kurosaki, and with me, as always, we have my amazing co-hosts, Alex Clark and Ryan Splash Potts. Gentlemen, as we begin every show, how are we doing on this fine Monday afternoon?
Doing pretty good, I'd say overall. I have a very fun week planned ahead for myself, and even later on today, I got a job interview, so hopefully that goes well. But later on this week, I'm going to have a good, a networking session on Thursday, then followed up by gaming with friends. Friday, I'm going to go see my first ever wrestling show here as WWE SmackDown is going to be in Seattle, so going to go see that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I've got other fun stuff going. Oh, yeah, Saturday's my last golf tournament probably of the year. So going to do that, have a good time. And then Sunday's baseball. So, hooray.
I'm going to ask a question instead of telling you guys how I am. Wednesday night, options for me. Option 1, stay home and eat lobster. Option 2, go to Nationals Park and watch the Braves-Nats game. Option 3, work a regular shift at work. Option 4, work an overtime shift at work and work 5 more days the rest of the week. Our pay period starts on Wednesday. What would Mac and Alex do as opposed to Jesus? Of course, the same.
Oh, God.
All right, my answer to this is go to the Nats at Braves game.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do the same thing.
Okay.
Like this, with the secondary choice being work overtime.
Yeah, get that money.
I will say, Cousins Maine Lobster, not sponsored, absolutely tremendous. They had their lobster bisque I could drink. I would like to go to the Braves game. There's also an option that I go to the Braves game, and when I get back, I go in for a couple hours as like the half overtime shift.
I mean, might as well at that point, right?
So,
like as long as you have the like mental and physical ability to do so, I feel go for it.
A bold of you
Especially
to I have mental and or physical capabilities, Alex.
I mean, I trust in you.
No,
You don't trust in me very much, but I trust in you.
I don't trust in myself, pal.
Okay, well, guess what? Be
Mac,
better.
how are you doing, my friend?
How am I doing? I had a pretty fun weekend, I'd say. I went to the Mets game on Saturday afternoon. Waited out a bit of a rain delay, but it was a good time. Other than that, I'm going to Boston on Thursday with my parents. Spending a couple days there, seeing some family friends. So that's going to be pretty fun. Also, if you notice, I may look or sound a bit different. I got a new laptop finally.
Wait, Mac, you have glasses?
Yeah, I know. You didn't know that.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, last week I had all sorts of issues with my laptop, and here we are. I went to the Apple Store on Friday first to go to the Genius Bar, which they told me my battery's failing. So that was basically that. So I went. I got my new laptop. And then after we record this, I'm going to be trading in my old laptop. So, yeah, that was interesting. I think it's worth the upgrade. So, looking forward to see what this machine has in terms of capabilities. But my old laptop was a 2017 Mac, so I'm not surprised it's kind of obsolete now. But other than that, basically all my sports teams won this weekend, so that's fun.
2/3 of mine won.
Yeah, I mean, my baseball team lost on Sunday, but other than that, it was a lot of winning. And like I said, Saturday was really fun at the ballpark. It was a hockey jersey giveaway, second year in a row I've been at that giveaway.
Nice.
So, yeah. And I actually finally got to see the Edwin Diaz light show entrance. I had yet to see him pitch in a night game this year. By the way, it is pretty electric. So... yeah, I'd say I'm doing all right. But anyways, we're going to get into basically the same segment we did last week. Last week we said, the NL contenders will win the World Series if. This week we are doing it with the American League. We are going with the 6 teams that are currently in the playoff picture plus one more, just like we did with the National League. So I say we go ahead and dive right in. Just like last week, we're going to start with the number 1 seed. And the number 1 seed right now in the American League are the New York Yankees. So, gentlemen, the New York Yankees will win ring number 28 if whoever here wants to go first, fill in the blank.
I'll
I
go
know
first.
this is kind of tough. All right, Alex.
I'll go
ahead.
first on this one. The New York Yankees will win the World Series if Aaron Judge continues to do Aaron Judge things. Aaron Judge is a one-man wrecking crew. Like, yes, there's all these other players around him. Yes, Juan Soto is great, all that fun stuff. Aaron Judge brings that flair to the game. Plus, he's also been a little bit down from what I've seen over the last couple weeks here.
Yeah, he hasn't hit a homer in a couple weeks.
Exactly. So people have been telling me that he's just waiting to go to Seattle to hit a home run just to unload on one into like the road, which I'm like, you know what? I would want to see that. Do I want to see it as a fan? Yes. Do I want to see it as a person that loves the Mariners? Absolutely not. But at the same time, like, Aaron Judge is just one of those amazing players that can do it. The rest of the offense, like, yeah, you need to make sure they're consistent as well. But if Aaron Judge doesn't get going, the team doesn't get going.
I'm going to go in a bit of a different direction here. The New York Yankees win the World Series if the clay sets on their home. Clay Holmes has been a tremendous reliever. I'm a Clay Holmes defender, if you will. He had probably the worst outing of his life against the Rangers. Wyatt Langford hit a walk-off grand slam. Clay Holmes is very good. Clay Holmes does things generally that are conducive to winning baseball games as a closer. People in Yankee land will complain he doesn't strike enough batters out. He needs to strike more batters out. Well, guess what? You had the guy that struck out more batters. His name was Aroldis Chapman. We saw what Jose Altuve did to him in the 2019 ALCS. Clay Holmes, on the other hand, doesn't allow much hard contact. He strikes out enough guys. It's not like he's like a dead ball pitcher, anything. He walks the occasional guy, yes, but you just get good Clay Holmes, and by good Clay Holmes, I mean most of the time Clay Holmes, you can close out ball games. I don't have any qualms with Clay Holmes going out. I know he's blown 11 saves. Emmanuel Clase blew 11 saves last year. Mariano Rivera had a year he blew 9 saves. He blew Game 7 of the World Series. No one holds that against him. So, Clay Holmes, welcome to your session.
Yeah, so I will say I think Clay Holmes is a little overhated, if that's a word, because I really do think he's a good relief pitcher. But, you know, I'm going to go similar to what you were kind of alluding to, Alex. The Yankees will win the World Series if hitters not named Aaron Judge and Juan Soto carry their weight. I mean, so here's the thing. I think Austin Wells is a pretty good catcher. He's actually been way better than I thought he'd be. I also think Giancarlo Stanton, when he makes contact, is a great hitter. He doesn't make contact all that often. That's the issue. Jazz Chisholm has been much better since joining the Yankees. But overall, do I trust this whole starting 9 in a playoff series? And I don't really. That's the issue. And to Aaron Judge's credit, he's obviously – you know, he's amazing. He's one of the best players, if not the best player in baseball right now. But he does not have good numbers in the postseason. Like, I'm having a hard time recalling, like, a standout postseason performance by him. So, and especially their last postseason appearance against the Astros, he basically disappeared. And they lost a couple of close games in that series. And, you know, if Aaron Judge shows up, they probably win that series and maybe win the World Series. So, they need to find someone. They cannot just rely on these two guys. So I think it's pretty straightforward there. I think this is an incredibly talented team, and they're not the number 1 seed by accident.
And I would very much respect that idea because you're right. Like, honestly, the rest of the hitters needed to pull their weight too. My main argument was just saying that if Aaron Judge doesn't get going, the rest of the team won't get going. Was kind of my more argument on it. But
I think you're right too, because that's the thing is they've sort of slumped these last couple of weeks, and Judge hasn't done much in those last couple of weeks. So I mean, they just lost the series to the Rangers recently. They lost the series to the Nationals. You know, if they lost the series to the Cardinals, these are series that good teams can't, especially when you're in a close pennant race. Those are losses you can't really afford.
Yeah.
So they were great early in the season. They've been under 500 since, and they're going to look – if they end up losing out on the division, they're going to probably look back at those losses to some marginal teams. So, yeah, the Yankees they're the number 1 seed right now, but they don't have a ton of wiggle room. So, anyways, yeah. So let's move over to the number 2 seed then, the Cleveland Guardians. I'm sure everyone in here predicted the Guardians to be leading the AL Central right now. So the Guardians will win the World Series if, and Splash, I'll go to you first on this one.
The Cleveland Guardians will win the World Series if Christmas comes early. Jhonkensy Noel is the really consistent source of power in that lineup. I know Jose Ramirez is going to go 40-40, but Jose Ramirez is like I don't know. I don't consider him a home run hitter. He's just a hitter. He's just awesome, right? Jhonkensy Noel is the guy that can change the outcome of a playoff game or playoff series, in my opinion. I'm not trying to compare him to Yordan Alvarez, but to me, there's a sort of fear factor when he steps into the box. You know, the ball sounds different when it comes off his bat. And I think he could be a guy that has a playoff moment, has a playoff series, goes 2013 David Ortiz in the World Series, 2021 Yordan Alvarez in the ALCS, that sort of deal. Lots of power. There's some swing and miss, of course. He could strike out 10 times in a playoff series. I wouldn't be shocked at all. He could also hit 5 home runs and give the Guardians a sweep.
Yeah, so I'll say this much, that at first I was like, man, what do I believe in the Cleveland offense other than Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor? And really, yeah, Noel tears the cover off the ball. It feels like every home run I see him hit goes a very, very long way. So I'm a huge fan of Big Christmas, and I'm very, very curious to see what he can do in a playoff series, because they didn't call him up for a while. He's only played 52 games. But if I'm looking at one concern, I'll say it here, the Guardians will win the World Series if they figure out that starting rotation. So let's put it this way. The Guardians' rotation has a 4.61 ERA. That is 24th in the majors. Their bullpen ERA of 2.77 is the best in the majors. So while I said last week the Mets can win the World Series if they figure out who can get the final 3 outs or final 6 outs, the Guardians can win the World Series if they figure out who can get the first 15 outs. Because I don't even know who can start game 1 of a playoff series for them. Would it be Tanner Bybee? I mean, Tanner Bybee's fine, 3.56 ERA this year. It's solid. But behind him, you're going to go into the series with Ben Lively as your number 2? Or Gavin Williams? Gavin Williams has not been what I thought he would be this. I had high hopes for Gavin Williams this year, and he really hasn't come through. I know he's been hurt too. But it's basically, can you get the ball all the way to – oh, and actually, Matthew Boyd, Mariners legend. Matthew Boyd has been pretty good. So he's only made 5 – he's only made 5 starts. That's the issue. So, basically, can they figure out 3 guys, or in a longer series, 4 guys, who can get the ball to even just to Hunter Gaddis or to Cade Smith, who can then get the ball to Emmanuel Clase? Because their bullpen has been fantastic this year. So, my God, if they can just get through 5 innings with a lead, they can win almost every game. So, Alex, how did the Guardians win it?
Yeah, so mine is going to be kind of similar to yours, just kind of like the last step of it here. The Guardians will win the World Series if they can get the ball to Clase. Like, Emmanuel Clase has been so damn good this year. Like, taking a look at this, I wish I was making this up because I feel like it would be a kind of me joke to make. He has a .69 ERA. Very, very nice. And that's
nice.
True. Like, that's not even a joke that I can make.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it right now.
He has been absolutely unreal this year. And legitimately, like you said right now, the starting pitching has been the biggest issue for them this year, next to the offense as well. But it's like, as soon as you get to Class A, it's weird. A lot of times in the 9th inning, people will kind of clench more. Like, oh, we just can't, don't blow it here, don't blow it here. When you see Class A coming in from the bullpen, it's the hitters that are clenching, not the defense. It's not people are excited to see Class A come in here. It's all about, does he get the opportunity? Because you know that if he does, he's going to do well in it. It's just about, do you get there? I also want to say one thing on the offense. How dare you guys disrespect my absolute homeboy, Kyle Manzardo here. Absolute legend they're over there for the Guardians.
Oh yeah, I'm a Manzardo believer for sure. That dude has some serious
another Cougar. Shout out to Manzardo Monitor as well on Twitter. No, I love Manzardo so much, and still think it was a mistake that the Rays dealt him.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be honest. I thought that the Rays, or not, I thought the Rays overpaid in the Aaron Chevalier trade too. So seeing that Manzardo, if he's in the majors, even if he doesn't start, I mean, that's a left-handed power bat off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I understand Stephen Kwan has regressed from his red-hot start, but Stephen Kwan is still a quality big league bat, and he can run and he can play defense. So really, the starting rotation is easily the biggest concern, but. It's weird. Emmanuel Clase, for a guy who throws at 102 mile per hour cutter, he doesn't strike a lot of guys out, but he just gets outs. I mean, he's he doesn't even need to be like perfect necessarily in the postseason, but if they make it to the World Series, if they win the World Series, it's going to be largely because of Clase or the rest of the bullpen. I mean, like I say, Hunter Gaddis has been fantastic. Cade Smith has been fantastic. So, anyways, let's move on to the number 3 seed right now, the Houston Astros, and I will go first on this one. I'll say the Houston Astros will win the World Series if they figure out what to do with Justin Verlander. I've been a big Justin Verlander fan. I was super excited when the Mets signed him last offseason. Obviously, the Mets kind of fell off last year, so they dealt him. And, I mean, he got hurt twice. He's had 2 IL stints this year. And really, when he's been healthy, he has not been himself this year. Last night, getting absolutely destroyed by Pavin Smith. 8 runs in 3 innings, didn't get a single strikeout. His ERA is up to 5.3 this year. The Astros started out 10-19 this year. They have been one of the best teams in baseball since. I believe since June 1st, the only team with a better record than them are the Mets. So if the Astros can just get something out of Verlander, do you put him in the bullpen? Like, I know he's never been a reliever. He's made 1 relief appearance in his career, and it was in the 2017 ALDS. Like, you have a formidable rotation with Framber Valdez leading. I think Framber Valdez at this point is the ace of the staff. Hunter Brown has been great. Ronel Blanco has been great. Spencer Arrighetti had a terrible first start of September, but he was great in August. It comes down to Verlander. I think Josh Hader has been much better since his Rocky start, just like the rest of the team. Brian Abreu is still really good. Taylor Scott has come out of nowhere. He's been fantastic. And the lineup just got Kyle Tucker back. And their lineup has basically stayed productive all year. So, really, if they figure out what to do with Verlander, maybe do you dare leave him off the playoff roster? If they figure it out, I know Alex is going to disapprove of this, but I don't know which AL team can stop the Astros in the playoffs. I'm just going to say it. I think the Astros have to be the favorite in the American League.
The Houston Astros will win the World Series. Period. That's my statement. They are winning the World Series.
I'm not too far behind you.
They are winning the World Series. I don't exactly agree they should be the favorite. Like betting wise, they should be. To me, they should be fourth. In the third in the American League. I would take them behind Baltimore and New York, just from an odds perspective. And then overall, I'd also have them behind Philly, and the Dodgers. So I think you could have the argument that they should be fifth. But I believe the Astros will win the World Series. I'm going to stand with my preseason pick, although they will be beating the Philadelphia Phillies, not the Braves.
That was my preseason pick was Astros over Phillies. So
good job, man.
All right, Alex, you have to say something here. So
I have a joke answer and I have a real answer. What do you guys want?
Tell us.
They need Martin Maldonado back. That's how they win the World Series.
Yeah. The Astros win the World Series if your Dangus continues to be your Dangus. I'm talking about Yordan Alvarez. He's so good at baseball. I don't have a real answer for this one because I don't think they're going to win the World Series, and I think they are still one. And again, yes, I'm a Mariner fan. I get it. I still think they are one of the most overhyped teams in all of baseball. I think they're good. I don't think that they're winning the World Series good.
This This kind of defeats the purpose of the entire segment.
Okay, cool. Here's what I'll say then. The Astros will win the World Series if they prove me wrong. Let's go with that.
Actually, that's a reasonable
That's a fair answer. Okay, fair
and
enough.
that's an actual sentence.
Yeah.
Well,
So
mine was an
here's-
actual sentence too.
Actually, no, yours wasn't because you got rid of the word if. That is already part of the question. You eliminated part of the question to make yours work.
I said a period, so
yeah, you said
I
period.
used
So
actual
the Houston
punctuation.
Astros will win the series if period.
Oh, that works. It's not a sentence, but it works.
Exactly.
Well,
That's what
there
I
was
said.
no
That's what I
if
said.
in the sentence.
There is if. That's the entire point of the segment is the if.
Well, there is no if. They will.
Then you changed
All
the question.
It's not a question. It's
It
a
was a
command. Or
question.
It's a statement.
I
You
was going
changed
to say
the
it's a statement,
statement.
not a command.
Okay, we will respect declarative sentences.
I will respect you understanding. If you're going to say that I don't know what the segment is, you need to learn what the segment is.
Well, I at least gave an answer. I said they will win the World Series, not if
I gave
they
I gave
will.
multiple answers.
Oh, God. Okay.
I
They're
think,
all of them very
yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah, honestly, Alex, I think that your answer is interesting. I'll say that much. That if they prove me wrong, yeah, I mean, it seems like every year, like people are wondering, is this the year the Astros finally fall apart?
And we were saying that for a good while at the beginning of this year too.
Yeah,
Considering
because
the fact
like I
that
said,
at one point Seattle had a 10-game lead on the West and then proceeded to throw it away like it was a progress on Metroid Prime 4.
I mean,
But
they were, I mean, they
imagine
were 10
having
and
a
19
10-game
to start
lead
the
on one
year.
of your division rivals. Couldn't be us.
Anyway,
can I just remove Splash from the podcast again, please?
he's
No,
been
I'm
ejected.
kidding.
We called Joe West. Anyway, what's it called? Yeah, the Astros, I will say, at the beginning of the year, they were a disaster. But there was just no way they were going to stay down that long. And I remember I was talking to my brother about this. And he had put out a tweet back in, I think, May that the AL West missed their opportunity to bury the Astros, really, entirely. So the Astros are here, and they're not going anywhere. So unfortunately, that's the way it is. Anyway, let's move on from the Astros. Let's get into the wild card team. So leading the wild card race right now, we have the number 4 seed Baltimore Orioles, a team that I think it feels like they've almost been sort of disappointing in some ways. They've been objectively a good team, but it feels like they've left a little bit to be desired. So who here wants to go first? The Baltimore Orioles will win the World Series if, and I'll go to Splash here first since I saw his hand go up.
The Baltimore Orioles will win the World Series if Felix Bautista returns. It is as simple as that. That's not happening, of course, but
Yeah, unfortunately,
they are not getting outs in late inning situations. It is, you have Craig Kimbrell. Yunier Cano is not he's a solid reliever. There's, to me, a difference.
He's a
between
setup
reliever.
man.
Yeah, he's not a closer. They are trying to reconstruct the 2023 Phillies bullpen, which, ask a Phillies fan, how did that go, my friends? It did not go well. Look, the offense is going to do offensive things, not like offensive as in like, I don't know, watching Bo Nix, but offensive as in like productive to society. Like, yes, maybe Gunnar Henderson doesn't hit. Maybe Adley doesn't hit, but they have like 17 guys that look like Gunnar and Adley that will probably hit, and someone's going to score runs. I've been a skeptic of their rotation the entire season. Corbin Burns might be washed. He's been rough the last like 6 months, or rough the last like 6 weeks. It feels.
6 weeks. I was going to say 6 months.
Yeah.
That's
Trevor Rogers is in Norfolk, and for the uninitiated, that is not the major league level. And Grayson Rodriguez, what are we doing here? Bradish is injured. Means is injured. I don't know. Whatever. But let's assume they score enough runs. Who's getting the 25th, 26th, and 27th outs? And to your point about them being disappointing, it feels like the 2020 Ravens in a lot of ways, that they were a year ahead of schedule the year before, and they were awesome. Like the Orioles won 101 games last year. People forget the 2019 Ravens won 14 games. And the next year, there's some regression because you weren't actually, well, the Ravens were actually that good, but the Orioles like kind of overachieved, right? And the Ravens aren't going to win 14 games again. So your 90+ win Orioles team looks like a disappointment, and your 11-win Ravens team looks like a disappointment compared to what you did the year before.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is the Orioles, nobody had them winning 101 games last year, like you were saying. But I think this year, I think there was an expectation that, I think it's more that they got off to such a hot start this year. And since the middle of June, they've basically been a 500 team, if not a little bit below. So they've left, like I said, they've left something to be desired. And I'll go ahead here. The Orioles will win the World Series if they find some form of consistency. Literally nobody on this team has been consistent lately, except for Zach Eflin, but he spent some time on the IL. The bullpen, I mean, they, like you were saying, Splash, they just keep trying to plug in someone to the ninth inning. And maybe Sir Anthony Dominguez is the guy for them. But Sir Anthony Dominguez doesn't have a ton of closing experience. He did get some reps with the Phillies in years past, but at this point, it's find a way to get it to Dominguez, but really it's, all right, Cano is a good setup man, but he's been kind of shaky here and there. Craig Kimbrell, I don't know what happened. I'm a huge Craig Kimbrell fan, but I think he's going to have to retire soon. I'm a big fan of the way he still comes set before he delivers the ball, but I mean, it seems like every outing he's getting shelled ever since the middle of July. So, and then the offense, Adley Rutschman is in the worst offensive slump of his career. It's slightly concerning because it's not just, he had a bad month or he had a bad 2 weeks. He's had a rough 3 months or so. I mean, his OPS is below 600, I'm pretty sure. Or it's hovering around 600 the last couple months. And I believe this month it's 482. So, yeah, there are a lot of concerns about Adley Rutschman right now. And really, other than Gunnar Henderson, the offense, I feel like, even Gunnar Henderson himself has not necessarily been what he was in the first half. So if the Orioles can get like 1 out of 3, maybe 2 out of 3 of their position groups to be consistent, they can win the World Series. So, yeah, I'll be honest, this is a 91 or so win team, I think, and it feels like they've left scraps on the table.
Yeah. I completely agree on that front. The fact that they are the number 1 wild card and yet don't feel like it feels like they're competing for the 3rd spot with how they're playing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so my sentence for it is that the Baltimore Orioles will win the World Series if they learn how to pitch the ball. Like, kind of going on to what you guys were saying here on this, I agree. The pitching is the biggest concern with this team right now. Like, yes, the starting pitchers have been pretty okay. I mean, you still have Corbin Burns. You still got some of these guys that are solid overall, but the bullpen is what's worrisome. Like, don't get me wrong, I still love Craig Kimbrell. He is still one of my favorite players in Major League Baseball. I've always been a fan of his from when he was on the Braves to all the way through. But you got to be also a little bit honest with him. Take a look. He's been getting shelled. It's not, the ball just isn't zipping the way that it needs to be. And if you're going to be an elite closer, you've got to find ways to keep going. And yeah, he's still going at this age, but it's not going at the way that he needs to be. And if your team can't hold on to those late runs, it's kind of like the Angels' problem here, right? That it doesn't matter if you score 10,000 runs if you give up 10,001. And that's kind of the problem right now that the Orioles are having, because they will have times that they will get a ton of runs. They'll have times they'll get 0 runs. And it feels like at those times, like, you just need the pitching to hold on at least a little bit. If they do that, they can win these games. If not, you're going to be the Angels.
I think the Orioles are incredibly talented, really. I
agree 100%.
The more I think about it, they kind of remind me of the Rangers last year.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Rangers last year, by the way, the Rangers also way overachieved last year. And unfortunately, their regression has been far more ugly than the Orioles. But the thing is, the Rangers, I remember, got off to a red-hot start, then really struggled at one point, to the point where we were wondering if the Rangers would make the playoffs. And then they got together in time to win the World Series. So if the Orioles can peak at the right time, that's the thing. The Rangers peaked at the right time last year. they were unstoppable on the road, which also makes no sense. I don't know if that can be replicated by anyone this year, but if the Orioles peak at the right time, then great. But I mean, did they peak too early? Did they peak back in June? So, anyways, let's move on to wild card number 2 right now. This team has far exceeded expectations this year. That's the Kansas City Royals. They hit a little bit of a slide. I think they lost 7 in a row at one point recently, but they've now won 4 in a row. So, Alex, I'll go to you first here. The Kansas City Royals will win the World Series if
the Kansas City Royals win the World Series if they keep scoring runs the way they have. Because I've been looking, one thing that's so interesting to me, again, run differential, right? Like, it's not a number one given stat all. Did you know that the Kansas City Royals have the second best run differential in all of the American League? Here, the next one, only one that's better than them are the Yankees at 122. Their run differential right now is at 97. That is a higher than the Baltimore Orioles, higher than the Guardians, higher than the Astros. Here, they are the second best scoring differential team in all of baseball. Just keep it going. Right now, Bobby Witt has been this absolute phenom of a player at this point. Keep running on that. You've been able to outscore your opponents here. And again, like Joe Buck would say, you got to score more runs than your opponent to win the game. But that's penny wisdom. But guess what? It's been working for them. And they've been doing that at an exceptional level. So honestly, yeah, they keep. It's like, it sounds so stupid, but the Kansas City Royals win the World Series if they score more runs. If they keep scoring runs.
So I have been in between my sports deep cut analogies here. So I will give 2 very brief answers. Number 1, the Kansas City Royals will win the World Series if they become the Bolivian national soccer team. Number 2, the Kansas City Royals will win the World Series if they break serve once. I think that one makes more sense. The Royals are unbelievable at home, scoring runs. Bobby Witt hits like 500 at home. Pasquatch hits like 500 at home. Salvador Perez hits like 500 at home. They're unbelievable at home. They won't be at home very often, but when they are, they will probably win. So all you need to do is break serve once, and you win the series. Just win one game on the road, you win the series. Just win one game.
Yeah.
Or in the case of the wild card series, you do have to win 2. But
yeah, well, that's the thing with the Royals is that their offensive numbers at home are almost like suspiciously good. Like it's
because you don't think of Kauffman as a hitter-friendly ballpark.
Yeah, you don't. That's
like it's huge. It's almost as big as Coors, and Coors is on a mountain, so like fair. But Kauffman is ginormous.
Yeah, well, let's look at their splits real quick. At home, 265, 325, 434. They've scored 650 runs in 75 games. Let's go. Sorry. Oh, I was looking at the hit column. Wow. 375 runs in 75 games. That's an even 5 runs per game.
That's really good.
On the road, their numbers are 241, 294, 397. So their OPS is about 60 points lower. Almost 70 points lower on the road.
Dang, do they have like an Astros thing going on right now?
306 runs in 69 games. That is just, that you're basically looking at best offense in baseball versus below league average. I'll say this: the Royals will win the World Series if someone not named Bobby Witt Jr. steps up. Because that's the thing. Vinny Pasquantino was very productive this year. He's hurt now. He broke his wrist on a play at first base, and they've gone 4-7 since. So clearly they're missing Pasquantino. Salvador Perez is doing solid. He has a 120 OPS plus, but then it really falls off after that. Michael Massey has a 103 OPS plus, but he has a 288 on base percentage. I don't think I trust that in a playoff series. Their starting rotation has actually been fantastic, and I give it major props to their starting pitchers. Seth Lugo, Cole Reagans, Brady Singer, and Michael Wacha have arguably been the best 1-4 in baseball this year. None of them have an ERA below 3, but none of them have an ERA higher than 3.35. And then if they get Michael Lorenzen back, Lorenzen's been really good. since getting traded to the Royals. And their bullpen has been kind of up and down this year, but they've been much better since they got Lucas Ursay, and he's become their closer. He had a couple of rough outings during their losing streak. He's been really, really good overall, though. So, yes, you may see a 3.63 ERA, but he also has 8 saves, 21 strikeouts against just 2 walks and 17 in the third inning. So, Lucas Ursay is nasty, and he's basically transformed that bullpen. So, yeah, the Royals, if you told me before the season the Royals would be in a playoff spot on September 9th, I would have thought you were crazy. But here we are, and they are in a playoff spot. So let's move over to another AL Central team. I'm talking the next team, wild card number 3, the Minnesota Twins. So the Twins just got swept by the Royals over the weekend. Not great, but fellas, how will the Minnesota Twins will win the World Series if, and I'll go first on this actually, the Minnesota Twins will win the World Series if they can beat the Yankees. Yeah, that just doesn't happen. For those of you who don't know, if my memory serves correctly, the Twins were eliminated by the Yankees in 2004, and in 2009, and 2010, and 2017, and 2019. So yeah, if the Twins want to have any shot at winning the World Series, they will have to beat the Yankees at some point. And whether that means in the wild card series, in the ALDS, in the ALCS. So the other thing is that it feels like the Twins have been really inconsistent throughout the year. They looked great. They looked like they had a shot at Cleveland. And then you have a series like they did over the weekend against the Royals, and they fell completely flat. Royce Lewis, I'm a big Royce Lewis fan, but his batting average has fallen to 248. His OPS is down to 826, which is fine, but the way he started the year and the way he played last year, you expect more. Carlos Correa is still hurt. Jose Miranda has cooled off. Byron Buxton is still hurt. I mean, there are a lot of holes on this roster, and I have a hard time, trusting their rotation. Really, Pablo Lopez is taking a step back. Bailey Over's been fine. Simeon Woods Richardson is a regression candidate, unfortunately. Their bullpen, surprisingly, Yohan Duran has been the weak link in it. Their bullpen is probably their biggest strength, but yeah, the Twins, in addition to needing to beat the Yankees, they need to just find a hot streak again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unless you want to go Splash, I can go next on this. Mine is going to be a little bit silly, but that's okay here. I usually am. I'm going to quote Fort Minor slightly with this here, as the Minnesota Twins will win the World Series if they remember the name. Look at their name, Twins. Quoting to one also Utri as well. They are the T's in my mind until they win. Again, take a look at what they have done in the playoffs, like you brought up here against the Yankees, that they just can't find a way. They finally won a playoff game, a couple years ago? It finally happened after so many years of none?
Finally.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So legitimately at this point right now, just remember your own dang name. Don't go in saying you're the T's. You're the Twins. Wins, if you will.
Okay, that was either the best moment in podcast history or the worst. I can't decide right now.
Yes, is the answer.
The Minnesota Twins will win the World Series if they play 3 true outcome baseball. This is one of the most annoying teams to play from a standpoint of they love taking walks, and they do not care if they strike out. So they will let your pitcher rack up 100 pitches in the first 3 innings, and Spencer Schwellenbach goes up there, throws 106 pitches, doesn't get out of the 5th inning. There's 30 foul balls in the first 5 innings. This is a pesky team. And yes, I know they're not healthy. And yes, I know Royce Lewis is not actually the best player in baseball. But it's the kind of thing that it's sort of the 2015 Royalsy, that it's pesky in a different way, that they will not let you get out of the batter's box without war ensuing. Now, they don't care if they strike out, which I know certain people on Twitter will not like that. But when you walk as much as they do, in theory, Edouard Julien is not having a particularly good season, but he's the king. and you hit home runs like they do, they have the Matt Wallners of the world who are setting like StatCast records and are always like in the not quite Stanton tier, but they're in the where the Judges and the Acuñas and the Otanis are, right? And the O'Neal Cruzes are. They have the raw tools to score enough brute force runs and win baseball games. They can do the 2021 Braves method of just hit a bunch of home runs. And actually, hitting home runs is a really, really spectacular way to win playoff games, especially if you're drawing walks ahead of those. So the Twins, they're total frauds, and they are White Sox merchants, as my name would suggest. Also the Tigers, who we will not be talking about. But the walks and home runs are really good in the playoffs. Stringing hits together, very difficult to do when you're facing good pitchers. Well, one thing to do is to take a lot of pitches, and when you hit a pitch, hit it over the wall. What a novel concept. I know, right?
I'm not too familiar with it.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot to ask for.
Yeah.
Okay, I will. Both of you do play in non-hitter friendly ballparks, so I would understand that neither of you know what hitting a home run feels like.
I mean, depends on the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some
I do. I currently have been playing in a state when I play on my Friday baseball leagues where there is no way to hit a home run because there's no fences. Oh. On Sundays, though, there actually is a fence that I am trying to hit a home run off of, and I got actually kind of close on a play yesterday.
Although, Mac, I think your issue was the left field wall. Where did Jason Bay?
Oh my God, the Great Wall of Flushing. That was a time to be alive. And now we have Mount Baltimore out in Baltimore, which, again, I do not understand the point of moving the left field wall back. Anyway, I have a friend who's a Yankee fan who insists the Orioles did this to gain an advantage. By the way, that makes no sense. Anyway, let's move on. The last team we're going to discuss, they are still fighting the AL West and still 3.5 back in the wild card race. Alex's Seattle Mariners. Alex, tell us, the Seattle Mariners.
I want to go last on this one. I love you guys, but I want to go last on this one because I have a dumb answer.
Do you want the wet blanket now or in a few minutes?
In a few minutes. Yeah. No, so I'll let you guys
go ahead, Mac.
Splash, you go first here.
Mariners will win the World Series. I was going to be the wet blanket.
Usually are.
Yeah. The Mariners will win the World Series if baseball becomes a sport where only pitching matters. Like if you got points for pitching, like if it was like golf, right? And the lowest score wins, the Mariners would be unstoppable. Now, my current suggestion for the Cancun series being the Mariners and the Braves, with both of them inevitably are the 7 seeds, that would be quite the fun series if you like 1910s baseball. Not a fun series if you like 1990s baseball. But the Mariners have an unbelievable pitching rotation, and they have a ballpark that extends that dominance, if you will. It's sort of like like the greatest show on turf. Being on turf helps. They would have been a great offense anyways, but being on turf helps. Sorry to bring up a division rival, but sorry. The Mariners can outpitch anyone in baseball. Like, we can talk, well, are they as good as the Mariners? Are they as good as the Phillies or the Braves or the Royals or insert team? Maybe, maybe not. But they are right in that conversation. 1 through 5, they are awesome. Brian Wu could start game 1 of a playoff series for the Cleveland Guardians, and no one would bat an eye. But they can't hit. And it might be actually to their advantage that they would not play a theoretical wildcard series in the unfriendly confines of Trout Mobile Park. But I don't know. It's just baseball would have to fundamentally change to help pitching for the Mariners to win the World Series.
So I'm going to go ahead and say the Mariners will win the World Series if they even put a league average product out there on the offense. Let's put it this way. Cal Raleigh leads the Mariners in home runs and RBIs. 29 homers, 90 RBIs. I'm not a huge fan of RBIs, this statistic necessarily. It's not the first one I go to. But the second most, Luke Raley and Julio Rodriguez are tied with 49. You see the issue here. That should not be possible. Luke Raley is also second in home runs with 18. So the offense as a whole just is not. They've just left a lot on the table this year. And also, to your point, Splash, about their pitching is fantastic. That's why what I've been saying is that if they even had a league average offense this year, this is a team that could win the World Series. But I'm also going to point to their home road splits. At home, 41-28, 2.73 ERA. On the road, 32-43, 4.27 ERA. So they have a home field advantage for their pitchers, not so much for their hitters. I'll say the Mariners, if they can find if Julio Rodriguez can keep hitting the way he's been on his recent hot streak, then they have a pretty solid chance. But they still have to run down the Astros. I'm not saying it's over in the AL West. Mm-hmm. I think there's still a chance. I think there still is a chance they could run down the Twins. I think they have a heck of a lot better chance than the Tigers or the Red Sox do. So the Mariners have their work cut out for them, but I wouldn't count them out quite yet.
Okay. All right. I'll go into this and whatever. The Seattle Mariners will win the World. Yeah, the Seattle Mariners will win the World Series if they make the playoffs. That is my bid here, and let me bring up a couple things with this. Look, I understand that the pitching is what's carrying them. Absolutely, I will not doubt that. I will not doubt that T-Mobile Park, not Trout Mobile Park, T-Mobile Park is not a hitter-friendly ballpark. I get that. But let me bring up a couple things here real quick. One, pitching is what dominates a lot of the time in the postseason. We've seen that time and time and time again. Also, here's something that's been interesting. I was doing some looking around, and I found some interesting stats about the Mariner offense because I was looking at it they've been hitting a lot better over the last few weeks since they made one very big change, as in Dan Wilson as manager and Edgar Martinez as the hitting coach here. In that span, which, mind you, only 16 games, I get it. But in 16 games that are at the end stretch here, they have, as a team, a .242 batting average, which is about mid in the MLB. Not great, mind you. It's about 18th. But they are fourth in the MLB in on-base percentage at .347 as a team. They're fourth in the MLB in WRC plus here at a 121, or WRC plus. A 24.2% strikeout rate, which is the 11th highest. So again, mid. So middling there. And the best walking rate in the MLB at 73 walks in that span. They have been playing to league average, if not slightly above, over the last 16 games. Now, mind you, I understand 16 games is not everything. But the pitching has been stellar the entire year. To give kind of an idea, I was listening to the game the other day, and an interesting stat caught my ear. The Mariners have only used 7 starting pitchers all year. 7. It's about to probably be 8 because I think Luis Castillo is probably going to go on the IL to near the end of the season. Here, hopefully not. He had a strained hamstring after the game yesterday. But regardless, the team has been hitting. The pitching has been strong still. Your bullpen is getting stronger now that JT Chargois has actually started to figure things out. Andres Munoz, whenever he comes out of the bullpen, has been incredible here. So, and now talking about the offense, Julio has been dominant as a hitter as of the last couple weeks. They are getting hot at the right time here. Are they going to make the playoffs? I'm not going to guarantee that. I wish I could, but I'm not going to guarantee it. But if they do make the playoffs, they are playing some of their best baseball of all season right now. The offense is not amazing. I'm not going to say it is. I wish I could, but I can't. No, they are doing average, but we have been saying this for the last few months now, that the Mariners would be the best team in baseball if they had a middling, at least an average offense. Guess what they have now? Average, just maybe slightly above or slightly below average offense.
Yeah,
that's what we're at now. And if that is the case, then what we've been saying, that means that this is the most dangerous team in all of Major League Baseball. You keep that up, you keep going at this rate, and you're getting hot in mid-September All you need to do is get the wild card or take the division from the Astros. That's why the series in Houston, 3-game series, is going to be so valuable for both sides on it. That could decide the AL West right there.
Yeah, that's the thing is the Mariners, I mean, like you were saying, good pitching does beat good hitting. And the Mariners have very, very good pitching. And, I mean, that's the thing. Logan Gilbert has been their best pitcher this year, I think.
Oh, 100%.
The thing is, they don't score for him. That's the issue.
It's a Felix syndrome at that point, right?
Felix, I watched it with Jacob deGrom. I watched it with Johan Santana. It's about supporting your pitchers too, and they haven't done that for most of the year. Now, if they do put it all together, if they do put it all together, if they get in, I could see this being kind of like the 2022 Phillies, maybe. You snagged that last spot, the last second, or the Diamondbacks last year, you make it all the way to the World Series, maybe you win it. But this thing, they have the talent to do it. They have to put it all together, right?
And thankfully, that's what's been nice is that they have been putting it together. We've been seeing it over the last month or so, and it's good to see the fact they have been figuring it out here, and they're figuring it out at the right time. Now going into the playoffs,
I catch a whiff of 2023 Bears, and not in a bad way, but the Bears last year after they added Montez Sweat were really like an awesome defense, like top 10 defense. And they won enough games after their like abysmal start. Like, oh, is this the worst team ever? Are they going to have the number 1 and number 2 draft picks with Carolina? But they ended up missing the playoffs because they, dug themselves a hole. And the Mariners didn't really dig themselves a hole. It's just that they are behind other teams that I can look at the strength of schedule, but they're behind a couple teams. So I wouldn't be exactly shocked if this is a case of like the Mariners missed the playoffs by a game or two, but they are if they had made the playoffs or if 8 teams made it per league or what have you, they would be a serious threat to win the World Series because they're playing well at this moment, as opposed to other teams who are kind of coasting it, like Baltimore, who hasn't been particularly great since like mid-June, or even the Yankees, who haven't been particularly great since mid-June, depending on how you slice that up. But the Mariners might be peaking at the right time, but I don't know if they are going to have a high enough, if they get there, right? That's the question.
So if it might be like too little too late, right?
Right.
And that's why I started with that they'll win the World Series if they even make the playoffs. If you make the playoffs, then I think my point really stands, where the offense has been clicking at the right time, the pitching has been where it's been all year, which makes you that dangerous team.
And that makes you optimistic for next year, which isn't exactly the worst thing.
Yeah, the only thing I worry about with next year is about whether or not your offense is actually going to do anything. True. Considering the fact that we are so optimistic about this year, adding in players like Polanco and Garver and Mitch Haniger. The Mitches together, as much as I love both of them, have a combined -4.
Mitches do be crazy.
It sucks. I hate it. I love both of them.
It's the issue though. Like, can you put it all together? And I want them to put it all together. But they do need to gel at the right time. And they are gelling right now. But if they do get into October, what are we going to see in October?
It's going to come down to like the last literal week of the season.
Yeah, and I mean Splash and I are probably going to be in the same boat there.
Anyway, the podcasts are going to go crazy at the end of the season.
I do have a question. Over under 1.5 of our teams make the playoffs. One of them probably will between the Mets and the Braves.
I'm going to say over.
Okay.
I'm actually going to go with over too, just because Arizona has a really hard schedule, and I think I said this last week. Someone, I think it was to the New York Post guys, but the Mets probably have a better shot at taking down Arizona than they do Atlanta, because Arizona still has to play 2 series against Milwaukee, and they end the season against the Padres. So I think I'm going to go with the over here, actually. And I think there's a non-zero chance all 3 of our teams make it.
I was about to say, that's honestly what I think is. I'm not going to say the most likely, but I would love it if all 3 of our teams made it, because that's going to make podcasts so much more fun.
Yeah.
Did the Mets hold the tiebreaker over Arizona, right?
Yes, they hold the tiebreaker with Arizona and San Diego.
Okay. the Braves hold the tiebreaker over Arizona, not San Diego. I don't know. I kind of lean under. I don't exactly trust the Braves and Mets to both be good for like 2 weeks. And that's what it's going to come down to. Maybe one of them will probably be good for a week. I believe there's another series between them.
Yeah.
So that'll hurt
last week
them.
of the year.
Yeah, that'll hurt one of them.
Yeah.
Although the Braves have a bit of an impact on the American League wildcard race because they also play the Royals,
they face the Royals
here the last week of the season. So,
I may or may not be rooting for the Braves in that series.
Hey, you and me both, buddy. So, I think I'm leaning under, though. I think Arizona figures it out. Their offense is too good.
Well, also, so the Mets play the Phillies 7 times in 10 days starting on Friday. So that's going to be big. And also, they have to end the season against Milwaukee in Milwaukee, which, by the way, the Brewers swept them to open the season at Citi Field. And also, the Mets, I believe, are – yeah, I'm pretty sure they are – actually, they are. They're 3-18 at American Family Field since 2016. So it is – it could get ugly. I mean, the Brewers will probably have the division wrapped up by then. But anyways, you guys can let us know what you think of all – will your favorite team win the World Series this year? How will they win the World Series? Are you a White Sox fan? I'm sorry. But
we forgot the segment.
Oh, yeah.
How are the White Sox going to win the World Series?
So how will the White Sox win the World Series?
Three
Go
words
first,
or
Matt.
less.
Let's hear it.
3 words or less.
The White Sox will win the World Series if baseball disappears.
Alex. 3 words or
the
less.
The White Sox will win the World Series if the nuke hits.
Okay. I actually could go for no comment. The White Sox. Well, the White Sox win the World Series if Heat, Death, Universe.
Okay.
All right. So
I got one more small one for it. Here, I got the White Sox will win the World Series if MLB the show as in only the show as one thing entity becomes real.
Mm.
Oh well, yeah, maybe. I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
maybe they would actually pitch Garrett Crochet.
Maybe they would. Maybe we'd actually be able to see how good some of these people are actually going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Potentials of
winning. What are we doing here?
Anyway, let's go to the next segment.
Yeah, so now it's on to everyone's favorite trivia segment. And I was asked by Alex before today's episode to prepare everyone's favorite trivia segment. Who did he play for? Or did he play for that team? Anyway.
Like, who he play for?
Yeah, it's a take on Inside the NBA's Who He Play For, which, by the way, we will Inside the NBA's final season is coming up. So, anyways, I have 9 players here. You guys will switch off telling me, did this player play for a certain team? So anyway, I have a number in my head between 1 and 30. One of you guess first.
24.
11.
The correct answer was 19. So, Alex, do you want to receive or do you defer?
I'll receive the kick.
All right. Your first player is someone you mentioned before the episode, Curtis Granderson. Did he play for the Milwaukee Brewers?
Yes.
That is correct. In 2018, Curtis Granderson ended the season with the Brewers. He was actually on their playoff roster.
Nice.
So, Alex takes the early lead here. Let's go to Splash here. I'm going with one of your guys, Andrew Jones.
Oh, boy.
Did Andrew Jones play for the Chicago White Sox?
Yes, he was actually a league average hitter with the Chicago White Sox, believe it or not. I know people want to LA wash it, and he was awful in LA. Can't forget about that. But he was an average hitter after LA and before LA. But LA, he had a 35 OPS plus. So.
Yeah, so yes, you are correct. Andrew Jones did play for the White Sox. I do have a vague memory of that. I also remember him on the Texas Rangers. But anyway, let's move on to our next player. Alex, your player is Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod. Did he play for the Philadelphia Phillies?
No.
You are correct. He was in spring training with the Phillies. He did not break camp with them.
Yeah.
So he was released on March 24th. Although on Baseball Reference, you can find a picture of Francisco Rodriguez in a Phillies cap.
That's funny.
You can also see him in a Nationals cap. Again, he did not play for the Nationals.
Anyway, let's Joseph Daniel Votto and the Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays, yes. Anyway, let's move on. Splash, your player is Jose Bautista, Joey Bats. Did he play for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays?
Yes. Jose Bautista did play for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
You are correct. He briefly played for the Devil Rays. He appeared in 12 games. He got 15 plate appearances, going 2 for 12 with 3 walks. That was during the awkward period in Jose Bautista's career where he was just getting bounced around the league. He was originally originally drafted by the Pirates, ended up on the Orioles as a Rule 5 pick, ended up on the Devil Rays on waivers, ended up on the Royals again on waivers, then ended up on the Mets for an hour, then ended up on the Pirates again. So yeah, it was a swell time before Jose Bautista became Joey Bats. Yeah. So you guys are even through 4. Let's move over to our next player, Alex. Steve Carlton, Hall of Fame lefty. Did he play for the Montreal Expos?
Yes.
That is incorrect. Steve Carlton did not play for the Montreal Expos. He played for the Cardinals, the Phillies, the Twins, the Giants, Cleveland, and the White Sox. He never played for the Expos.
I just knew that he played for a bunch of teams. Yeah, so I was like, I was trying to figure out if I could remember the U-Tree video about the legacy of failure from the Expos.
They did have Pete Rose at one point.
They did have Pete Rose at one point.
He got his 4,000 hit.
He did get his 4,000 hit with the Expos, yeah.
But no, they did not have Steve Carlton. No. Although those two were teammates in Philadelphia. So let's move on to Splash. The next player is Tom Seaver. Tom Terrific. Did he play for the New York Yankees?
Tom Seaver did not play for the New York Yankees.
Correct. Tom Seaver worked in the Yankees broadcast booth, but he did not play for them. He played in the American League for a little bit. He did play for the White Sox. He did play for the Red Sox. But yeah, correct. He did not play for the Yankees. So, all right. So Splash has a lead here. Let's see if Alex can close the gap, maybe?
I think I have to get this one right in order to stay in it, right? No, I need to get this right. If I don't get it right, if Splash gets it right, he wins automatically.
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, your player is someone I mentioned earlier, Craig Kimbrell. Did he play for the San Diego Padres?
Yes, he did.
That is correct.
I remember him playing for the Padres.
Traded on opening day in 2015. I remember getting that. I was in Japan and being like, what in the world is – like, I thought that was – yeah, I thought it was like a fake notification because actually my friend sent it to me and was like, oh, my God, look at the Padres trading their entire farm system. I'm like, wait, did they actually just trade for Craig Kimbrell? Unfortunately, the Padres underperformed that year, and he was on the Red Sox less than a year later. So,
thank you
correct.
For Max Fried.
Yeah, Max Fried and Matt. I thought Matt Whistler was the like
big. Like 2015 to 2017 Braves names give me like
maybe it's because I watched Whistler throw 8 innings of 1-run ball in his big league debut against the Mets, and it's like, okay, this kid, it's clearly an ace.
Me with Ian Anderson at Yankee Stadium.
Oh yeah, Ian Anderson. Anyway, next up, I have another Hall of Famer for you, Splash. I have Ricky Henderson.
Oh boy,
did Ricky Henderson play for the Boston Red Sox?
Ricky Henderson did play for the Boston Red Sox. I believe he is the oldest Red Sox to steal a base.
I mean, I'm sure that's true because he did play for them in 2002 as a 43-year-old, 72 games, posted a 721 OPS across 222
plate appearances. Did he steal a base?
He did steal 8 bases,
okay.
Which, if you're doing that at age 42, props to you. I mean,
I think that was the year Adam Dunn had 11 more steals than Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, I guess, 42-year-old Ricky Henderson didn't have quite the same wheels that he used to, and he also didn't play as often. So
yeah, okay, sure. We were burying the lead here. Adam Dunn had 19 steals.
I know, yes, he did. Which for a guy who's 6'6", 290 is insane. Anyway, so Splash hasn't won, but Alex, I'm going to give you your last one anyway.
Sounds
Yours
good.
is Koji Uehara. one of my favorite relievers of my lifetime.
Yeah.
Did he play for the Texas Rangers?
No, he did not.
Oh, man. I have news for you. He did.
All right. Honestly, like as soon as I said no, I had a flashback to him in Jersey, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yes, he was traded by the Orioles to the Rangers for Chris Davis and Tommy Hunter in 2011. I think the Orioles won that trade.
I mean, yes and no though, because that also means that they had to pay Chris Davis.
Yeah, I know. That was, Chris Davis broke out with his big 2012 and 2013 seasons. And it was after his 2015 season, they decided to give him that massive contract. But
and then he went, what was it, like 0 for like 100?
I think it was 0 for 50.
0 for 50 or something? Yeah. I remember seeing that and being like, man, is this guy? I mean, this guy's getting paid 20-something million a year for that. But anyways, congrats, Splash, on your win today. Pretty convincing.
Good win.
Maybe we'll run this back.
Do you have another player?
Probably will.
No, he had one as it was like the tiebreaker.
Oh, okay.
That was it. Anyways, we're gonna move on to our final segment that we end every episode with, which is the moment to ourselves, 60 seconds or so to talk about whatever the heck you want to talk about. So who here wants to go first? Alex, all right. Your time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so I am really excited for my upcoming week. This is probably one of the most busy weeks I've had in a while. And it comes down to a few things. It comes down to I get to go and have a job interview in literally an hour at this point. Then, again, getting to hang out with friends. I get to see my very first ever wrestling show. I am so excited about it. WWE SmackDown is going to be on the USA Network for the first time for us changing networks from Fox over to USA. And usually when they do big switches like that, that also means big surprises and big shows. So I'm excited. I get to go see that in person now. Yay, it's a fun time. Also getting to participate in my last golf tournament, more than likely last golf tournament of the year on Saturday. And Apple Cup is also on Saturday. So with how WSU has been playing, I'm excited for it. John Mathias has been legendary through the first 2 weeks. It has been so much fun to watch them. But no, honestly, this is going to be a pretty mellow one, but I'm excited for the week. Been having a good time. Also, good little lads right here. Good lads right here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Cynical family.
Kulava is my favorite Pokemon of all time.
I might be the worst producer in history.
Yeah, I saw that. No worries. You good, man.
Anyways, Splash, do you want to go next or?
Sure.
All right, your time starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
So the Ravens lost Thursday. That was quite disappointing. I watched one drive and one play because I work on Thursday nights. So of course the one drive I watched, the one play I watched is the one I'm going to talk about. Patrick Mahomes, all-time bailout. Catching his own batted pass, absurd, saves the Chiefs about 40 seconds and probably saves them the game in a lot of ways. Although I will say the Ravens 100,000 million% go for 2 and fail it in the most comical fashion in the history of the universe. So, yeah, it was a rough weekend for my sports teams, particularly Saturday. Arizona was losing to Northern Arizona. They did end up winning 22-10, so that was okay. The Braves lost in not dramatic fashion. They got annihilated. Spencer Schwellenbach had his worst outing since his second outing in Boston. The Ravens lost Thursday. Boise State had a lead against Oregon. It was all going well. They allowed a kick return touchdown, a punt return touchdown. They lose on a last-second field goal. So I am depressed. Life is sad. Life sucks. But that doesn't mean it'll suck tomorrow.
Exactly. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
There always is.
It just is Taylor Swift in the AFC Championship game and makes me want to look over my balcony.
All right, then. All right, I'll go next. Can one of you count me down?
Your time begins in 3, 2, 1, begin.
Yeah, I just want to talk for a second about Syracuse football. As you can see, my display name, Kyle McCord fan. I cannot quite put into words how night and day it is having an elite quarterback at Syracuse. This is probably the best quarterback we've seen since Donovan McNabb, and that's not an exaggeration. Unfortunately, Garrett Schrader wasn't quite that. Tommy DeVito wasn't quite that. I mean, not even Eric Dungy. Kyle McCord is leading the country in passing touchdowns. Okay. I understand that our defense is kind of weak right now without Marlo Wax, but I mean, this is the most fun I've had watching them through. I know it's only through 2 weeks, but they already beat a ranked opponent. They beat Georgia Tech the other day, which also leads me to my next point. I'm not quite sure how Notre Dame is ranked and Syracuse isn't. I'm not quite sure how NIU is ranked and Syracuse isn't. Yes, I understand Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame, but like I said earlier, Notre Dame should not be ranked. So Syracuse, first of all, rank them, and second of all, Kyle McCord for Heisman. So go Orange.
I'll be honest, I was so happy seeing NIU beat Notre Dame.
It was
purely just because I love watching these big upsets, and especially considering the idea that a lot of big schools will pay these smaller schools to come in and basically just get the hell beaten out of them, and yet when they actually win and then still get to collect their $1.2 million paycheck, it's just like they just walk in like.
Exactly. Well, it's what John Rothstein tweets during basketball season: the epitome of brutality, losing a bye game.
It's amazing.
But Anyways, I'm. By the way, college football season is pretty exciting, and I was pretty hyped when it came back, and I can't believe Syracuse is on bye already. Anyways, that will do it for our show today. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LAR_baseball. Follow myself at Mathias_A_K. Follow Splash at Mr. Splashman19. And of course, follow Alex at the Sports Guy 242. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever the heck you're listening. Maybe tell us, like I said earlier, why you think your team will win the World Series. But for everyone at Losses Above Replacement, thank you all for listening. Stay safe, and I hope to see you all real soon.